Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Hey, everybody. Today, we're talking with a legend. This guy is awesome. He has trained so many of the sales experts that I know and has done so phenomenally. He's impacted the lives of thousands of salespeople, sales leaders across hundreds of industries. His name is Rocky LaGrone. He's CEO of Sales Development Expert, and he is someone that you got to listen to. Let's get started with Rocky LaGrone. Rocky, my friend, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Paul, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I have been looking forward to this since we talked about it a while back, and I've certainly watched a lot of your other episodes and listened to some, and man, I just really appreciate what you're doing out there and how you're helping the entire sales profession. And, you know, you can't help sales professionals without having that spill over into personal life. So love what you're doing. Thank you for inviting me.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. And that is one of the things that I love most about, and I think we connect really highly about on, is that ability to make an impact on the lives of people just every day. And sales is a leverage point for being able to just get out there and shine bright and help out. Just for the audience, you know, tell me a little bit about you, what you're doing today in sales, and a little bit about your background.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll try to keep it.
That's a loaded question for you.
It is. And, you know, if I had a marker in my hand and a whiteboard, you couldn't keep me quiet. But, oh man, we are in the sales development business, if you will. I believe sales is the most misunderstood, but also the greatest profession. As we just said, you know, our mission is really to help our fellow man improve the quality of their life through sales and to help businesses grow through their people. And that's what we do. So everything from, you know, top to bottom, we've been doing this about 35 years, been involved with 200 different industries over the years, tens of thousands of companies. We've worked with thousands upon thousands of salespeople we've, you know, had intimate relationships with. And we kind of look at sales maybe from a little different perspective. It's certainly changed a lot, but the fundamentals never change. It's the application of those fundamentals. It's helping companies grow by bringing in the right people. So we provide sales development services, which is inclusive of sales analysis to figure out where you're at first, kind of an X-ray or MRI, where you're at today and how you're going to get to where you want to be. And is that realistic, and how fast can you get there? And do we have the right people with the right skills and the right roles and the right systems and processes and tools in place? And wherever the gaps are, we help that organization fill those gaps, either through our resources or helping them with their own resources. And then bringing in newer salespeople, sales management, leadership, really raises the bar for the entire team. You know, probably one of the biggest hidden expenses on a P&L is sales turnover and weak and mediocre salespeople. You know, every study you read says that sales teams are barely making whatever 50 to 70% of quota. Well, why do companies allow that? You know, I mean, if your accounting department was only 70% right and it was time to, you know, do payroll or do taxes, you wouldn't allow, you know, that to continue. So sales is one of those fuzzy things. It's not really fuzzy if you understand it. There's a science behind it. And we just, man, I just love working with salespeople and seeing those lights go off and seeing them double and triple and quadruple their income and their revenue, and companies grow. So I don't know what else to do, Paul. I got into sales, you know, probably real sales. I was about 23. I was working 4 jobs, going to college, put myself through, saw an ad in the paper and it said, management potential, $1,200 a month guaranteed. I was like, oh my gosh, that would be the answer to everything. So I go down to the interview. It's a group interview. First time I've ever seen or heard of that. It was about 45 people in the room. I'm sitting on the front row, and it was kind of a pattern that developed. Somebody would come talk to us about success, and then they would show a VHS tape on the big TV that was, the big cabinet TV. And then somebody else would come talk to us. And I mean, I'm just like, okay. What's is it? And all this while there was a table, kind of a conference table over up in the corner with a white sheet covering up stuff you could see sticking up under it. And about 3:30, the main guy, Calvin, walks over and rips the sheet off, and it's a parted out Kirby vacuum cleaner. And I started dying laughing, like just out loud. And he was like, well, what are you laughing at? I'm like, I cannot believe that you guys have hoodwinked us to sit in here till 3:00 this afternoon about a freaking vacuum cleaner. And, I look back, and he did a wonderful thing that I had no idea what he was doing at the time. And he kind of went negative on me. He goes, yeah, you probably couldn't sell any of these anyway. I said, I bet you I can sell more than anybody in this room. He said, well, prove it. That's okay. I'll prove it. Well, that weekend I went out and sold 6 of them. I made like $3,500. I did sell more than anybody in the room. And that was my, thought that was it, So I quit UPS. I quit college. I quit doing landscaping on the weekends. And at the same time, I was, trying to sell life insurance and annuities. I'd got licensed to do that, and I was running appointments. I had no idea what I was doing. But man, every 4 doors I knocked on, I sold a vacuum cleaner, and I was making $250, $300 a vacuum cleaner. And that's kind of where I got into sales. And then it kind of hit me as like, there's got to be something that's a little more less sleazy than selling vacuum cleaners,
Yeah.
And about 4 months later, I sold one to I'm going to call her a senior looking woman who had 9 kids, no carpet. And I sold her the vacuum cleaner that night. And I went home and I couldn't sleep. I'm like, I can't do this. This ain't right. It was $29 a month for the rest of your life. And I mean, it did have the floor cleaners. It did have, the polisher. I mean, everything she needed for her wood floors. But I mean, the only piece of carpet she had was at her back door. And it was a very rundown neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I don't know. I just, wound up selling. And then finally took a professional development course and wound up just realizing that I guess I had this God-given talent to help others improve and accomplish what they want to accomplish in their life. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's not, yeah, we got quotas, we got, goals from the company, and you got and all that stuff. And that's great. But what's your real purpose? What are you really doing this for? Because if you don't have a purpose and you don't have that grit, that drive, that willingness to fail fast, to learn, sales ain't for you.
So you mentioned something in that story. You said, I'm going to have you go, just keep on going on. But one thing I want to dive into is you said the fundamentals.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed, but the fundamentals, core fundamentals haven't. What do you include in those? What do you count in those after, doing this for, and then being a part of, growing companies for 35 years?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was talking to one of my clients yesterday afternoon, and we were, having some conversation about having to have some tough talks with his team. And this happens to be a nonprofit, which we've worked with a lot of those organizations too. And that's probably one of the most difficult because you're asking people to give you money for nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he kind of used a similar excuse we hear from a lot of organizations. And I listened for a while, and I said, Here's the thing. Every single client I've ever worked with, I hear the same two things. Our business is different. And when things get tight, we're the first thing to get cut. I said, I hear from every single client. And yeah, your business is different. Your sales is different. And yeah, budgets get cut. But the fundamentals never change. We still have to find somebody to talk to. We still have to create trust. We still have to ask really challenging, difficult questions. I don't mean right off the bat, but we've got to get people to recognize what problems they have and why they have them, and that they're willing to do something about it. And if they're not, that's okay. They're not a prospect. So they've got to have some kind of reason to change. And it's got to be the person that has the ability to make that change, right? There are a lot of people out there that can say no and can't say yes. And I'm not saying we don't have to deal with them, but we got to get to the person who owns the real emotional issues and has the most impact. And so once we've done that and we've helped them identify their own reasons why they need to do something different, and they're not going to share that with you unless you develop deep trust and become the advisor. I don't care what you're selling. That's, you still got to do that. And then obviously the economics got to make sense. And we're not talking about, just giving pricing, but what's the ROI? What's the value to fix that problem? And how does that relate to what we charge? And that's a little different conversation than what's your budget. And then of course we've got to get, right people to make the decision, whether it's a yes or no or a very clear next step. And then once we have all that information, it's pretty much easy to go in and make the presentation of our solution that fixes their problem and helps them. And either that fits or it doesn't. And then, of course, you got implementation on the back end, whatever that is, if it's, making a product or selling a service or delivering whatever it is that you do. So those are the fundamentals that never change. And every business has nuances of how that works. And it's the application of those fundamentals that makes the difference. A lot of companies go, well, I want industry specific. I mean, do you have experience in our business? It's like, well, yes, I do, just because I've been around so long. But I mean, why do you want somebody experienced in your business? Because if they're industry specific, then they're teaching you the same stuff they're teaching the competition. And they don't have the ability to grab from other worlds that you've never seen or heard of and bring best practices from there into here. And there are a lot of parallel industries and businesses that, unless you've experienced the inside of them, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not, to greatest knowledge and the greatest in the whole world, but we have failed so much more. We've seen so much failure so much faster. We know what not to do. And that's really what sales is about.
I'm going to see if I can summarize what you just told me real quick. So we got to figure out, well, I mean, basics that don't change. You got to engage. You got to develop trust, discovery, or asking great questions, right?
It's not us discovery. It's helping them discover.
Helping them discover the issues that they're facing.
Helping them discover what consequences they're going to face if they don't use us and buy our stuff now, not later.
So that is a real established issue from a person that can make a change.
Yep.
And so that never changes, and it really doesn't. It doesn't change across any application and any type of thing that you're doing. So fundamentally, do you view sales as a people game? Like, or is it a people plus process plus technology plus what? I mean, when you light up, when I see you light up and the brightness in your eyes shines when you're talking about how you're helping people get from point A to point B.
Is it a people game? Certainly, it's people. People buy from people, right? People buy from people they trust. People don't share their deepest, darkest secrets and their problems with others if they don't trust them. they don't talk about money with people they don't trust. So yeah, it's people, it's communication, it's psychology, it's understanding, recognizing human behavior, it's adapting. It's my job to be who you need me to be, right? But I'm still not changing my values and my beliefs, but I'm helping you recognize that I understand you, I understand your world, and we can help. So yeah, it's people, but it's also, that's the face-to-face, voice-to-voice side of it. There's also systems and processes. You might notice the purple. I'm a huge LSU fanatic, and we put the fanatic and fan. And of course, if anybody out there, has been following any kind of college football, then you realize all the horrible, crazy, stupid situations we have been in this season, LSU. And I'm just going to quote Lane Kiffin at his first press conference. One reporter asked him, Lane, how do you expect to use your history, your offensive and defensive expertise, your knowledge of the NIL and the transfer portal and all that to install the systems and processes to bring a championship to LSU? And so that's kind of a paraphrase of the question that I remember. And his answer was, you can have all the best and great systems and processes in the world, but if you don't have great people to execute, they mean nothing. And so another side of sales besides the people is the systems and processes and structure. The systems and processes for accountability, for motivation, for growing the team, for helping each individual get a little bit better each week, for coaching, for recruiting, hiring better salespeople than anybody you have today, for continued growth, for new business acquisition, as well as, expansion into accounts, and including client services. Oftentimes client services is run by the software department, the production department, the engineering department, whatever product or service it is. Whoever's in charge of that product, if you will, and the service is in charge of client services, and the salespeople sell it and turn it over. Man, that should be run by sales. Client services is a sales position. That is a customer face-to-face interfacing opportunity that every person in that role has the ability to learn something new about that account, has the ability to find some more issues that they can help with, has the opportunity to get referrals inside, outside that organization. And they're treated like glorified customer service staff and departments, as opposed to revenue and retention. And companies do a horrible job, and they fail at that consistently. So everybody, and I just wrote an article that come out in January for Top Sales about that, how everyone is in sales. And so I ask questions like this to every client early. When you answer the question, when we make decisions in our organization, big, little, large, small, important, not important, how do you answer the question, how is this going to affect blank? And if sales is not filling in that blank, then you have a sales prevention department. Because if you don't have revenue, you got nothing. If you're not getting new revenue, you're going to die. So it's long answer to your question. It's people, it's systems, it's processes, it's leadership, it's focus, it's accountability. It's all different for every single company based on how that leader wants to run that business, what they're trying to accomplish, and are they willing to do what's necessary to hold people accountable to do what needs to be done. And I'm talking about realistic stuff that needs to be done, not 500 calls, not 300 walk-ins, not, all the stupid stuff they spend money on, and they just keep chasing the bullseye around the target, Oh, well, let's get a new CRM. How many times have you seen it? You're in the CRM business.
Mm-hmm.
They want a CRM. Well, they need a CRM, absolutely. And yours is the best in the world that I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because you invited me as a guest. It's true. And I've been an administrator for just about everyone out there. But that doesn't fix the problems, that exposes the problems, right?
Hallelujah. Yep.
That exposes it. But if they don't know how to fix it, if they don't know what to do about it, and then they go, oh, well, let's change the comp plan. Well, that doesn't fix it. That just creates more mutiny. And, oh, well, let's send them to a sales class. Well, it's short lived. There's no long term reinforcement. The managers aren't engaged with that content with them. They're missing the boat on coaching. And they go, oh, well, let's just send our managers. Well, then the managers go, but then they can't, it goes from the content, the instructor, which there's no bad trainers out there, just some are better than others, right? And then it goes to that manager, and then that manager sits on it for a while. Then it goes to that salesperson, and then it goes out into the field. And it's like, well, it starts out as frozen concentrate, and by the time it gets to the field, it's barely yellow water.
Well,
And there's no orchestration of a true sales effort. And that's what causes people to get a bad feeling about sales development or sales tools. And then you got all these sales enablement people, which are supposed to be, helping the sales team and bringing in tools to make it easier for them. But then you wind up with so many tools, you don't know what to do. And you got so much stuff that's not working together.
I like the fact that you brought up Lane Kiffin, right? And mainly because he's a disciple of Nick Saban. Like, he loves Nick Saban in the system. And I'm up here in Columbus, so I was a big Jim Tressel, and then Urban Meyer, and then Ryan Day. But what I love about all of them, right, is their ability to connect with people and to make people the core and how they lift them up, right?
Yeah.
By being able to tell them the truth, hold them accountable, have their best interests in mind, expectations, and do that in the context of a system that's going to continue to drive and build those expectations.
Yeah.
And where I've seen, and tell me if you agree or disagree, I've seen people jump to just 1, 2, or 3 things. Like, they'll jump to a tech. They think the tech is going to solve all their problems. They'll jump to a training platform where it's going to solve all their problems. Or they jump to, and there's 2 things that a lot of times they miss. Number one is looking at themselves. And have we put in the core principles that are going to help drive my leadership in the teams? And then 2 is, how am I serving and lifting up that person, right? How do I make them and give them the tools that they need to live a productive life, right? Because many leaders just say, oh, that's not my job. But I'm hearing you say, and I am of the mind that it has to be, right? It just has to be how we lift up people.
I mean, think about this. To lead really means to serve. And so if I'm a leader, it's my job to serve you. And how do I serve you? I serve you by helping you accomplish what you want in your life, and recognizing that this company that we are working at together is the vehicle to help you accomplish that. And that may not be the vehicle forever, but if I can help you get to another place in your life and have that influence the rest of your life of being that leader we just talked about, all those coaches you talked about, they have very high expectations. They have very high discipline. They spend a lot of time with their players. I mean, just contrast what we were talking about with the old coach at LSU, Brian Kelly. He was never there. He wasn't in the field. He wasn't he wasn't on practice. He would just like ran it like a lot of CEOs run their own business. They bark orders at people, and if they don't get it done, they want to fire them, bring somebody else in. But that doesn't fix it. How many times in the last 3 years did you see coaches or players after a bad play with LSU and Brian Kelly would start screaming at them on the sidelines and get in their face, and they would just like turn and walk away? Well, there's no respect there because he didn't earn it. Respect is not given, it's earned. And, You can't earn that unless you spend time with your people and help them accomplish what they want to accomplish, not what I want to accomplish. But if I'm going to help you do what you want, then you got to help me do what I want as long as we're here. And that's the partnership. And companies miss that. I don't care if you're a global company. Whoever is in that leadership role, that is your job, is to help people grow beyond what their expectations of themselves are. Right? Help them perform at a higher level than they can by themselves.
And that's such a microcosm of sales as well, right? Just selling to a person. And that's where you tend to go and you focus on, I mean, back to your basics, right? I need to learn how to communicate, to develop trust, to ask great questions. That is the microcosm of, and that's why I love, your approach is understanding the people.
Yeah.
Being able to assess that. And
I don't want to get too deep on this, but I want to just suggest that our job as leaders is not only to help them with performance, but to help them with their own belief about themselves, right? Because we can teach people skills all day long, but if we don't help them change how they see themselves and what their belief in themselves is and what their own personal value is and where people are like water, we seek our own level. And until we learn to think differently, we can't really act differently. We can short term, but not long term. So we have to raise the bar for people themselves to see themselves at a different level, and a level that's greater than where they're at, no matter where they're at. And that's kind of helping them with their identifying potential. And when you work on that as much as you work on skills, people grow beyond their own expectations. They understand why they have been self-sabotaging. They understand why they have, put up with situations in their life that are not productive. They understand how those changes they make in sales can impact their own life and others around them. And to me, that's really the key in helping people grow, is teach them how to think differently. Then you can go out and do things differently. And that's not just training. And it's not therapy. It's what we've evolved to learn how to do with sales teams and organizations from top to bottom. And getting people to think differently will cause long-term positive outcome, not short-term spikes.
I hear the words crafting your sales identity and living into your true identity. Like that just really is something that I see you being incredibly important. I don't want it to come off as that being shallow. That is some of the deepest work that you could possibly ever do with somebody.
Yeah. And it's really just, it's kind of outcome based.
Yeah.
Right. So, Paul, if you do these things, this is the outcome you're getting. Is that the outcome you want? No. What outcome would you like to have? I'd like to have this outcome. Well, then this is what you have to do to get that outcome. Are you willing to make that change to do that? And if you don't have purpose and you don't have reason, then you won't do that. So that doesn't mean, you're going to get fired. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. That just means we got to approach you differently, right? So you've heard the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, we put salt in their food and make them thirsty.
I love it.
And everybody gets a different kind of salt. Because people are messy.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I'm going to use that all the time. So sorry, but it's now officially in my book. Maybe that's
it. Yeah.
But hey, how do people find you, Rocky, if they want to get in touch and chat about this stuff more?
Thanks for asking. There's only one Rocky LaGrone in the world. Just type Rocky LaGrone on the internet and you'll find me. Go to LinkedIn, Rocky LaGrone, or if you like, go to our website, www.salesdevelopmentexpert.com. But Rocky LaGrone, LaGrone, is probably the easiest way. There's only one of them.
Well, and I got to tell everybody out there, thank you for listening, but take Rocky up on that advice. Type that in and get a conversation especially if you're passionate about sales, because I can guarantee you, based on my experience, it'll be honest, it'll be in depth. You will develop trust quickly. You'll be asked challenging questions, and you'll be able to dive deep. So I highly recommend that conversation. I thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Well, Paul, thank you. And just to everybody who's listening out there, the best thing I could share with you from a sales management, sales leadership perspective is go out and fail as fast as you can and learn from every experience. And enjoy it, have fun doing it. Practice. We got the holidays coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got all kinds of opportunities to practice your skills, your capabilities, reading people, understanding people, getting people to change their behavior, getting people to think differently. Have fun with it. Enjoy it, because if you're not having fun, you won't do it very long. Good selling, everybody. Paul, thank you very much for letting me be your guest.
Thanks for coming on, everybody.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Absolutely. And hey, keep shining bright, my man. Keep shining bright.
You too, Paul.
Everybody, do the clicking thing, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, all of those things. And we will be signing off from the Art and Science of Complex Sales. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone.